And hi everyone, welcome back here. Laure backstage with Self-Made this time after a very convincing game against
Hello everyone.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you also.
What a showing after your first game. So for those who don't know, you used to play in the EU Masters and the Spanish League. How satisfying is it for you to play on the LEC scene?
Well, honestly, since I started playing professional League of Legends, I always dreamed of being in, back at that time, LCS, now LEC, and I'm like really happy to be part of it right now.
And were you relieved to know that you would be entering the LEC with your own teammates from Mad Lions?
Honestly, it didn't really matter for me with who I'm gonna play. I just wanted to have a good players, and I thought like I was basically the first player in the SK Gaming, so I had to choose who I gonna play with, and I decided to go for my former teammates because I think they were the best choice.
And from the looks of the first game, it was obviously the good decision. Now, can we please stop and acknowledge the fact that you just took down the world's finalists? How did you prep against them? Twice, actually, with the remake.
Well, the drafts that we played today, we didn't really practice them in scrims, but yeah, we were really confident about our team atmosphere and the way we played the game. And honestly, I'm not surprised we won versus them. I feel kind of sad because I had to play versus my former mid laner Nemesis, and we are really good friends. But I'm happy I was the one giving him the hack and not him giving me.
And that's a really great showing from you guys on the first game. Congratulations. And now we're going to send it back to Shox for the pre-game XL versus Splyce.
Thank you very much, Laure. Indeed, we'll get to that in just a second. But first, we also have to crown our very first Kia player of the game. It is Self-Made. You guessed it, 87% of the votes. Froskarin, you said earlier, this is my jungler to watch. And man, has he showed you right.
He's baby Yankos. I don't know what is in the water over in Poland, but they are just creating superstar junglers. I saw Self-Made in the Mad Lions. I was like, this guy's great. Everyone's talking about Nemesis. I'm like, I actually think it's Self-Made that's really being the difference maker here, and he got to prove it against Nemesis on day one.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And just for the SK Gaming roster overall, what a huge victory beating Fnatic on day one.
It just feels good that it happened twice. It feels good that the early game when SK's both, both times, even when they fell behind, they didn't buckle under the pressure. They didn't panic or freak out. They're tilt-proof. And it just makes me very excited that one day the moniker of El Clasico may be able to be rewarded. But it may be too early.
It may be too early, we will see, but we have a lot of games left to come now. Our second game is Splyce returning to the stage versus XL. Now, when it comes to Splyce, they're definitely a playoffs mainstay, and they are trying to achieve greatness with a new lineup.
I think what you just hit on really resonates with me, Shox, a playoffs mainstay. We've seen Splyce in the top 6 for pretty much the entirety of this organization's history. But to me, they are always the gatekeeper team. When Froskarin joined us, she was talking about the different teams and put this expectation that Splyce always beat the teams ranked 7th through 10th, but very rarely beat the teams ranked 1st through 5th. So Splyce were the definitive bar. If you were good enough to beat them, you were good enough to be in playoffs. And I need to see if this roster can outgrow that history that they've defined for themselves.
Trevor, I've got good news for you because I think that Splyce are moving in the perfect direction that they need to, and it starts with 3 points. Number one, they've got Humanoid. This guy is the hyped up rookie mid laner coming into this. I know everyone's been talking about Nemesis. We've got Abadage, who's going to be playing later on, but Humanoid does have a lot of hype behind him. I'm very excited to see the break. Then you got Norskaren. We already know who this guy is. We saw him pop off in summer, and now he gets the chance to do so again. And then finally, the top lane and the jungle. The last time that we saw Chachi and Xerxes pop off was when they were together, and Splyce has rejoined that combo. And I think with all of these factors, Splyce are heading towards that, next step for them. It's not just about being the gatekeepers or being the bar. It's now about being a dark horse.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I also think it's definitely time for them to take that next step. I'm also excited, you mentioned it already, Chachi and Xerxes back together. What is that going to give? And then Humanoid, how is he going to be activated, and how is he going to evolve? Because if you look at the rest of the players around him, for a rookie, it's perfect. He can get influences from all these experienced players and hopefully evolve at a fast pace.
It also means that it can be really volatile, especially when we take account of Chachi and Xerxes as well. So while you do see the mentality of the direction they want to go, it's kind of where are they going to attack on the map? Is it going to be an uncontrollable explosion where they're just going to be kind of like old school Vitality, or will they have a much slower pace game? Will they go back to Kabi, who's such a franchise rock for this roster?
And one of the things you mentioned, Frosk, was when Xerxes and Vizicachi played together, they looked the best arguably in their careers. Now, this is a meta that favors a lot of ingenuity, a lot of creativity. There's not a tiny short list of S-tier picks that you have to play. Xerxes made his name when he debuted on this stage for his creative picks, his decision-making in game, and he differentiated himself from many junglers. Once his creativity was somewhat stifled, I believe he started to struggle. So I'm excited to see what he can do on 9.1 on the LEC.
Yeah. I just have a bit of concerns if they try to play towards that built-in synergy and play towards the top side. With the changes to teleport and that you can no longer cancel the TP, it means that just playing towards the top side of your map doesn't automatically mean that you win bottom side. You know, you can't just use TP as a zoning mechanism if your bot lane starts to fall behind. So I hope it would work out, that synergy can continue, that they may give them an immediate strong point on the map, but it doesn't automatically translate well for the rest of the team.
Well, I have very high expectations for them. Peter Dunn is no longer the head coach. Juke has now put into that position, and I actually like that. Not that I dislike Peter Dunn, but it's kind of new flavor because we know that Splyce used to go 1-1 almost every week. I want to see them come out in week 1 and go 2-0 because that would be definitively different from what we've seen from them before. And if they want to do that, they're going to have to start by beating their opponents on stage right now as they are starting versus XL Esports. Let's see what their coach Ferndog said to Medic earlier.
Thank you very much. I am joined by Ferndog, the head coach of XL. Now, first time we've seen XL in the league. How does it feel to be part of the LEC?
So good to be here. It's what everyone wants to be. It's where everybody wants to be in European League of Legends, and we're so happy to be here.
And I know you've been with XL for quite a long time. How has that progression worked for you?
It's been amazing to see XL grow at this time. We've kind of put in the effort year after year and got to this point. Yeah, no, I was really, really happy.
Well, congratulations on making it. I know you guys have been big proponents of this 10-man roster that you're building. How is that going to work exactly with the LEC and the academy teams?
So we've got a very fluid system where we've got some more experienced players, some more rookie players, but really, really hungry rookies with the type of personalities that we see in the future actually making good LEC starters. So for us, it's just all about which gives us the best LEC performance week in, week out.
So is it a purely in the future look that we're having here with the academy players, or do you think we might see them in the LEC this split?
There's some that are more like LEC ready as of now, and there's some that are definitely more future projects. But we're working them all kind of developmental project for us, as is the whole LEC this time around.
And that decision as to who's going to play week on week, is that made purely by the coaching staff, or is there player involvement in that as well?
So primarily by the coaching staff. There is player involvement, and what we see in each week. There's also kind of a leadership core within the team, which have a big influence over kind of team direction.
All right, that makes a lot of sense. Today you're playing up against Splyce. How would it feel to take down Splyce on your first day in the LEC?
I think nobody expects it. We know we can do it. I have full faith in my team and our work that's going on behind the scenes. So I'm very confident, yeah.
Okay, so you have faith in the win today, but across the course of the split, where do you think XL are going to end up? Do you see playoffs in your future?
That's the goal. It's push what we can. I think get better week by week is my kind of strategy right now, and go 1 week strength from strength, 1 week from the next.
Well, congratulations again on making it into the LEC. Good luck today. Back to you guys.
Thank you very much, Medic. A lot of information there, of course. XL is one of the new organizations coming into the LEC. They will be fielding a 10-man roster, only 5 at a time, of course. And they are a UK team that is training from the Twickenham Rugby Stadium in London. I know nothing about rugby, but it is nice to see that sports tradition being possible.
Commonwealth sports, give me more rugby and cricket investment, please. I'm excited. I like to see that XL is one of these new orgs. It is a British organization that has been fairly small on the grand scheme of things. They have a very successful console history, played a number of console games and competed at the international level. And their League of Legends XL Esports last spring at EU Masters managed to make top 8. It was the deepest run a British league team had ever made. So there is some history there, but now this is a gigantic step up considering the small experience, and I'm excited to see what they'll bring to the table.
Mate, I'm just well chuffed to see the future of esports. Like in China, we see this all the time. You have these facilities, you have traveling
No longer we,
circuits.
by the way, you're EU now.
But it's fine because they're bringing all the good stuff. This team is based in London. They have a massive traditional sports backing behind them, and so it's just nice to see that that ecosystem continue to evolve domestically at the European roots.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. All the bases are there, and then we touched on it already. They have a 10-man roster. We just heard from Ferndog Ferndok, hey, we're going to start and play mostly with the guys that are LEC ready. I think that is completely understandable, and we'll see how everything evolves. So let's take a look at who those players are. Of course, the two UK lads with Kadril and Kasing.
Yeah, of course. Kasing is the first guy that was picked up by Exile, and I think he's probably going to be growing into what will be the franchise player for the squad.
He is the captain.
But a lot of very recognizable names. Exile, who dropped the H this year. Expect is back in Europe, and Kadril, a familiar face. Jessica has been playing around the amateur scene and the ERLs as well, so there's a lot of experience on these 5 starters. And I'm interested to see the development of the 10-man roster. I think if it works and if they get a lot of practice, it becomes a dangerous threat in best-of-5s and playoff scenarios.
I'm hearing a lot of if and with practice and this. Does this mean you do not give them too much of a chance in the first game? Of how do you guys see this match?
Okay, this is who you got to look at. You got to look at Kadril and you got to look at Exile. Again, if we think that Splyce is going to be about the top side of the map because they got that built-in synergy a bit with Xerxes and Chachi, I think you have to look at Exile. He's a high-impact player. Now, when I say high-impact, it's for better or if it's for worse. He will win you a game or he will lose you a game. And Kadril, he now gets the opportunity to showcase that he's playing in his actual role. He finally gets to be a jungler this time around. Just camp his lane. That guy's going to make plays. Just be ready.
No,
and mid-jungle,
absolutely.
so important in this meta. I think they can really take off here.
I think it's also, it's a bit funny, of course, for Kadril, but on the other hand, this guy, yeah, he probably feels like, all right, finally I've got a real chance. I feel like I fit in this organization. I feel like I've been given my first real chance to prove myself.
And in terms of people who need to prove themselves as well, Kasing has been one of these players that has been around a very, very long time. And you could argue that if Splyce are the gatekeeper team, Kasing might be the gatekeeper support. He was on Splyce. He's played on a number of teams over a number of years, and he has consistently been considered good, maybe not consistently great. And if this team is able to develop and grow and take some of his impact and leadership, because he is arguably the most experienced player, especially on this top 5, you can argue with Expect, but you know, he has a chance to shine and really define how people remember Kasing in the LEC.
I mean, frankly, we say that this is weighted towards Splyce. That's what we expect, but throw out the script. We just saw SK take down Fnatic not once, but twice, so anything can happen. I don't even know. I think it's all just up into the air. And again, I think it starts with mid-jungle. I'm glad that Kasing, that they have kind of that veteran voice to ring through the roster, but I think it has to be on Exile.
All right, let's see what happens. A big matchups here, and we'll see what Exile can do in their very first game as we head over to our casters for picks and bans.
It's Maddie.
It's Verdi.
It's Maddie.
It's Verdi.
It's Maddie.
Verdi.
Maddie.
Verdi time! Thank you, Shocks. I'm Aaron Medic Chamberlain, joined by Andrew Vediastay for the second game of the day. And what a game it's going to be. Vedi's back, baby!
Yeah, the lads, the UK boys.
Oh, yeah,
We're going to be casting a bit of UK League of Legends with XL going up against Splyce. It's going to be an exciting one in game 1 of the day. I think many expected Fnatic to be the favorites against SK.
It's true.
XL versus Splyce. I think many would say that Splyce would be the favorites, but I've had the opportunity to speak to some of the analysts behind the scenes of XL, and they've been telling me that they're quietly confident.
I mean, we heard from Ferndok. He's saying, you know, we can come into today and win this game up against Splyce. And if LEC is going to be upset central, well, then this is the second game in a row to prove that.
It's the first week where upsets always tend to happen.
Exactly.
So
first and last week tends to be where we get all of the upsets.
And last week, exactly. And there are a lot of familiar names. I'm excited to see how this Splyce roster will work out early on into the split. I talked a little bit about this team on Euphoria podcast and how my expectations are that at the beginning of the split, they won't do that well. They'll take time to kind of gel and figure out how to play the game together, especially with the new rookie in the mid lane. But you still have a lot of veteran talent on this roster.
Oh,
You've got
exactly.
Vizichachi and Xerxes, former Unicorns of Love players that kind of worked very well together. Norscarin, he had a lot of praise last year for his performances on Rocket. And you've got Kobe, who's one of the most consistent, stable AD carries of our league.
Exactly.
So,
the man this team has been built around since the start of Splyce as a League of Legends organization here, just consistently part of that roster. On the other side of the rift, of course, you actually still have a lot of veteran talent as well. Expect, Exile, Kadril, who played last year, Kasing there as well. Only Jeskla, a rookie to the stage. So both teams bringing a lot of heavy hitters in today.
yeah, I'm excited to see what XL can do. The return of Expect is definitely an exciting one. We heard Youngbuck, the coach of Fnatic, talk very highly of him. He was a sub for Fnatic last year, the third top laner of the already stacked
Can't
top
get enough
lane
top
pool.
laners.
But yeah, I'm excited to see what he can do with this roster. It's nice to see him back in Europe, and Kasing now pairing himself up with a new AD carry as well. Let's not forget that Kasing was playing on Splyce last split as well. So a lot of cool storylines coming into this game, a lot of cool expectations, but I'm also looking at what we see in the draft, because across the world, Medic, we've seen some edgy, some new, some fun stuff. To me, XL seems like the team that would bring out something edgy, something new, something that we might not traditionally expect.
Is that what you want to do? On the first time your organization represents itself on the LEC stage, you say, cool guys, Draven mid, let's go. Bring out something crazy, bring out something a little bit wacky, see how it goes. Or do you think you want to show that you can play the meta, you can play what's conventional at the moment, and there's a lot of flexibility there, even within our current conventions?
I mean, I think you want to win, ultimately.
exactly.
And if they think that the niche, the unique, the different picks are the ways to do that, then they've got to have faith in their own practice and how things have gone, right? And I think what's interesting about this meta is because there are so many flex picks, what you come to realize is that niche picks, unique picks, you can call them cheese picks if you want, very specifically counter some of these flex picks.
Okay.
And that results in some kind of weird, crazy combinations that you can get with these team comps. I mean, we already saw Elise support, we saw Galio's support, was it this morning or yesterday? Yep. There have been some crazy, we saw Renekton Jarvan over in the LPL, anything can come out. Was it the Darius that we saw as well this
Darius
morning?
mid today as well in the LCK. It's like you're playing rock, paper, scissors, and someone just comes in and says water balloon.
Yeah, exactly.
Just blows the whole thing wide open. It's
Yeah.
like you can't beat water balloon, that's just too strong.
Exactly that, right? So I'm excited to see what these two teams come out with. Splyce last year were known as very slow as a team. They relied much more on their macro knowledge. They tried to go for late game scaling. They were very good team fighters, but with new players, with a change of mentality, I feel like with Norscarin on your roster, you're guaranteed some kind of engage, some kind of playmaking champion.
And with Rakan so strong in the meta at the moment, that's where I'd like to see Norscarin go. Actually getting picked quite early in drafts as well. Splyce they talked about it a little bit on the analyst test, they've always kind of been the gatekeepers towards playoffs. You know, this team that we see in 5th and 6th. Last year, they started to rise up, got 3rd place in spring, and were only knocked out of the quarterfinals in summer by Schalke. So this year, you have to think they want to take that next step further. They want to be looking at those semi-finals, at those finals, and really challenging those top spots. But I wonder with the new 3 players, if they're there yet, or if it's going to take some time for that to develop.
Well, that's the big question, right? Because the one thing that I will say about Splyce is I do feel that last year they demonstrated that they could take good players and turn them into great ones. There was a lot of criticism around Niski as a player when he first joined, and Splyce, they really struggled at the very beginning of spring in 2018. However, throughout the year, they just got better and better. They finished in 3rd place at the end of spring. They managed to, while they did lose in the quarterfinals against Schalke, they took that team to all 5 games. It was incredibly close, and then they almost made it to Worlds. It was only G2 that stood in their way, and that was a very close-knit best-of-5 as well. And you just kind of see that not only was the league very competitive last year, but Splyce was that team that was competing with the best of them in Europe.
That they were. XL, on the other hand, of course, a brand new organization to the LEC, have come in with this 10-man roster. And talking to Ferndog backstage, he was saying, we are looking at every single role. We're not just saying we have this extra roster that we are going to play for the academy team. We are looking at every single role and seeing perhaps if we can get some of these replacements in. They have some strong players on their bench as well. Names like Sendo, who played for G2 actually on the LCS stage last year. Names like Special, like Taxa. These people that have been around the edges of the Challenger Series scene for quite a while and will be looking to make their break into the LEC.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what XL can do. Right now, we do have a bit of a delay on stage that we are working through. You can see that Splyce are just talking about it right now. Once we have more information, we will update you guys at home. We are very sorry about this, and we thank you for staying with us. We'll get into some more League of Legends very, very shortly. We've already had some great games today, and I'm guaranteed more based on how the meta is playing out. And, you know, this gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit more about the meta.
Let's do that. What really interests me at the moment is mid-jungle synergy. I think the ability to get early pressure through mid-jungle is really important at the moment.
So, that's something
you can say it's wrong if you want to say it's wrong. That's cool.
It's not that it's wrong, because I think it is important. I completely agree that it is important. What's more important to me is how teams use the pressure that they have.
Okay.
Because the reality is, both teams can't have mid pressure, right? One team is going to get it, the other team won't,
exactly.
right? So you kind of trade it. If one team gets mid pressure, then you've got to get pressure somewhere else. And like Fnatic in the very first game of the day, they had pressure in 2 lanes versus the one of SK. So I feel like what's more important is how a jungler utilizes the pressure that is available on the map to turn that into leads.
I'll have to wait to see how that happens in this game for a couple of minutes, because we have a miscommunication with side selection, as XL should be on the red side. The teams will be given a chance to re-strategize, which is the reason for the delay right now. Of course, side selection is so important coming into pick and ban and even getting into the game.
Yeah, so Splyce, they were under the impression that they were on red side. Unfortunately, due to a miscommunication, they are in fact on blue, so that's why they're being given this time. That's why you're listening to us, the Medivedi duo. Talk to you a little bit about it. No detectives this time around.
Who are those detectives?
They're fascinating. They're very entertaining to watch.
I didn't realize, he looks like my twin brother, but I've never met him in my life.
No, I feel that
very
you're way
strange.
more handsome than him.
That's true. It's the mustache. That's scary. It's creepy.
It is quite scary. I don't think we could really pull off a mustache.
No, and not those jackets either. That's so, so last summer.
Definitely 2018. Something that an LCS detective would wear, perhaps. Now, talking more about this game, expectations, Splyce are kind of the favored, but that's only because you have so many players that you're familiar with. And you also look at the XL lineup and you're like, Kadril, well, he was on that really bad H2K roster last year that didn't win very much, right? And XR, well, he was one of the main reasons why Unicorn struggled all the time, because all the attention had to go around him and you didn't know if he was going to be good or not, right?
And Expect, he didn't even play on a team last year apart from Origin.
So, like, expectations are low for XL. God, there's a lot of X's. But I think it's also fine because you're basing it off of your knowledge on these players. But something that I think was very valuable from DeFisher on the podcast was he said, and Froskurren on the desk, is this is a fresh start for these teams, especially Kadril, a guy that wasn't in the best scenario when he role swapped to jungle. He can now work with a team from the beginning. He can focus in on his primary role. He doesn't have to role swap or lane swap or anything like that. And they can just grow as a team in order to improve and showcase a better individual performance.
All right, for anyone just tuning in, we have had a miscommunication with side selectors. XL should be on the red side. The teams are being given a chance to re-strategize at the moment, which is the reason for the delay. Until we get that resolved, we're going to hand it over towards our analyst desk.
Thank you very much, Medic. It is part 2 of the Unplanned podcast.
With a new guest.
With a new guest, it is Trevor. Of course, we apologize for the delay once again. We should be back in Champ Select in 5 minutes, so hopefully that is the case. That gives us a little bit of time to talk about the situation as well, because Frost, hearing you were bringing up that this is of course very important, that you need to re-strategize if you're being put on a different side.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is the fact that Splyce, it sounds like they want red side, and if you actually look at LPL and LCK right now, they have a higher win rate on blue side. Now, because there are so many strong champions, if you want to use the word OP, if you want to use the word S tier, whatever, a lot of champions that you want, it's actually not as punishing anymore to be on red side, because you almost get bang for your buck, because let's say blue side, you get your priority, you pick your Cassiopeia, your Aatrox, your Lucian if you're Fnatic, whatever you want, and then boom, red side. You get 2 massive picks. But the big thing for me on red side, and how we've been seeing it used in LCK, is as a counter pick to jungle. Now, so far in the LEC, we haven't seen that. They've rotated the jungle quite early, but it's been a possibility, and I think that there's like 4 teams right now in the LCK have used it exclusively for that. And as we were talking about, how would Splyce look to attack Exile, I think doing so in the jungle would actually be a very unique strategy to pull off.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to take into account that they have practiced a certain strategy and have prepared a certain strategy, and you don't want to leave anything to chance in the first game on stage. Now, I do think when I look at the side of Splyce, all that experience will be able to handle any curveballs. It'll be different for XL. I think they are under a bit more pressure in that a lot of these players are playing their very first professional game in the LEC, so they'll want to be comfortable.
And also, you have to look at the coaching staff and the support staff behind the players. It's one thing for the players to be experienced and understand how drafts work, but when you do have this coaching staff like XL, who have a pretty heavy hand in managing 10 players actively and working towards them, there's more pressure. I also think one of the things that we've noticed, Reese, I believe you've noticed in terms of the blue side, red side priority, is on patch 9.1, the likes of Urgot and Aatrox find themselves banned by red side fairly frequently. And if you have blue side and the option to target ban certain champions, and you kind of feel or anticipate that Urgot or Aatrox will be taken off by red, it gives you a little bit of additional freedom and even, you know, maybe lean a little bit more towards why blue is somewhat preferential in the likes of the LCK?
I mean, I think that when you leave something up like a Lucian or a Cassiopeia, of course, blue side feels great right now, although it didn't necessarily translate into the LEC. And I'm always really curious what type of meta differences we're going to see globally. So far in the LPL, there's been a lot more diversity in the mid lane, and you have a lot more flexibility there, and they use Urgot more so on the top side, whereas in the LCK, it's all about the top lane. No more champion diversity in the top side of the map. Urgot is almost exclusively a mid laner for them, so now it's just kind of like Chapter 3, LEC. How do we take 9.1 and how does this define our draft phase?
Yeah, definitely so. And we are going to head into Champion Select, I believe, very soon. I don't know if I heard that correctly. But league officials, they have established a miscommunication with side selection, as XL should be on the red side. To alter that, Splyce was given 7 minutes to prepare to play on the opposite side. Now, league officials, they gave them the extra time to maintain competitive integrity since Splyce were not prepared to play blue. We will be getting to Champ Select in just 1 minute, so it seems that they, you know, were pretty clear-cut in what their other strategy was, and they now have to reset.
I mean, the easiest answer and easiest observation would be like, okay, maybe Splyce wanted to do something specifically with the counter pick and target out a role. So we'll see if maybe that translates into the ban phase. If you're the viewer, then see if maybe one role just gets automatically smashed or pinched. Or
if it was you, who would you try to ban out on XL?
I mean, for Splyce, personally, I think when you're a new team and you're rebuilding synergy, it's not so much about what you take away from the enemy team, it's about what you prioritize for yourself. So it should tell us who Splyce thinks is going to be their carries, where they think that they're strong. And this is going to be completely different for every single team, even regardless of the meta. You can say the meta is about mid-jungle, but if you as a team decide that you don't have a strong mid laner or a strong jungler, you're never going to draft that way anyway.
Yeah, and with all that's going on, we would almost forget that Humanoid is on the Rift right now, and we are going to see him play, and we are so hyped to see what he will pull out in his very first game. And luckily for us, we're about to find out because the team's all ready for picks and bans. So let's head over to our casters.
It's Maddie. It's Maddie.
Let's go. Let's get in the game.
Oh, we're going into game. Okay, cool. Let's get on into the game as quickly as possible. Picks and bans just around the corner. XL up against Splyce. It's going to be a great game to have our second game of the LEC.
Yep, and I'm glad that Splyce were given that extra time to prepare.
Exactly.
You typically find out the day before what side that you are playing on, which means that teams typically prepare for both sides during the week, and then they refine their strategy throughout the day and throughout the night. So I believe, or I expect Splyce to have a game plan in mind, and then they've just used this time to like refine it, make sure that it's good to go, and obviously it's not an ideal situation, but I feel confident in the experience in this roster, they'll be able to bring out something strong.
Especially with the coaching staff they have. You know, you're looking at Duke, you're looking at Peter Dunn, experienced members, experienced heads on that team. Now we are into picks and bans. Splyce on the blue side, XL on the red. Akali, Aurelia banned out straight away. Karthus and Cassio removed as well by XL.
Surprising Galio ban. Well, I mean, a lot of S-tier picks are being banned away on the blue side. Clearly they have something in mind in terms of early priority. Urgot and Aatrox are both available. I imagine that XL will look to take the Aatrox away, depending on what answers they have. Instead, no, they're looking at the Lucian, so first pick immediately gonna go for the Aatrox. And remember, the crucial thing about this pick is it is not just a top laner, it is a mid laner and a jungler. A lot of teams have been preparing it in multiple roles, so you've got to be prepared for that.
But immediately, Urgot Rakan answer. We talked about how good Norscarin was on the Rakan. Kasing is just as good. His engage potential absolutely paramount on that champion. Alongside it, you have the Urgot, who we have seen mid, and we've seen flex to top.
So, I love this Rakan pick. It offers that engage. You also have the flexibility of the Urgot between mid and top if you want it. Interestingly, we're going to an old school bot lane for Splyce. Kobe was known for his Caitlyn back in the day. Last year, he even got a pentakill on the champion.
We were casting that.
Yeah, we were. Maybe we'll get to see it once again today, but how the meta evolves is very much around pressure. We talked about this, how you want to have strong laners. You want to be able to generate threat somewhere on the map. And what Splyce is saying is they very much care about the bot lane. They want to have a strong 2 versus 2, and by going for this Morgana, Caitlyn and Morgana, often considered a pretty solid pick into the Rakan as well, I think that Splyce already looking strong in that side of the board.
And we're getting on into the second phase of bans of that Zenzao was picked up for Cadril. Expect to see probably maybe junglers locked out here on the side of XL. Splyce probably trying to lock down that bottom lane.
The other option is you ban out mid laners because remember, you have the first pick. So if you ban things that you have in mind would counter the pick that you want to lock in, you can just narrow the pool and limit the options of Splyce to answer.
That seems to be what they're doing. The Rise ban, there's the Xayah ban on the side of Splyce though. Don't want to give up that Lover's bottom lane. Alongside that, still a few power picks available for both these teams. Looking down the tier list, you're thinking maybe a Camille, Lissandra still there, Victor available as well if you want it. Jungle picks for Xerxes, basically anything available for him.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of options available right now. Very much depends on what they choose to ban away. Lissandra going to be taken off the board, another very strong pick, and that can be flexed into both mid, top, even bot if you want to. All kinds of options available to you. And now if you are on the side of Splyce, I think you look to ban away another AD carry, but no, they're actually banning away the LeBlanc. That's quite interesting. I feel like the champion, given that she's primarily played a mid and doesn't have that many flexibility options, has kind of fallen down the power ranking, but perhaps they were worried about XL playing it for himself.
Yeah, it's one of his classic picks as well. The Zoe alongside that, maybe we'll see him go towards that, although we haven't seen Zoe that much in the current meta here. XL probably looking towards their mid lane, do have that as the first pick in
Sion
the second
is
rotation.
available.
Sion there as well, as you say.
Because you definitely kind of move down the tier list in terms of Wow, a
Okay.
Rumble. Well, we
Okay.
talked about, what did we say, Medic? If any team was going to bring out an edgy, unique niche pick, it was going to be XL. They picked themselves the Rumble, but where? Where is it going? We don't know.
It could be jungle, it could be mid, it could be top
bot.
lane.
I don't know.
Support Rumble, I'm calling it now.
AP
Because things just like
Ricard,
anything
yeah.
you can do, I can do better. Of course, Xerxes was well known for his Rumble in the jungle when that was
That's very
part of
true.
the meta. Not going to be on his side this game. Other picks coming in. Looks like Splyce have locked in a cannon.
Yes.
But I'm not 100% sure if that is the actual lock, as we lose pick and ban from our screen. It is a false pick, so we'll get that resolved for us as soon as possible.
Okay.
At the moment, the Splyce composition is Aatrox, Caitlyn, Morgana. See how they want to round that out for the end.
Right, so not entirely sure what happened in the draft just there. We'll update you once we have further information.
Picks and bans will be the same up until
Yes,
that
of course,
pick. So
yes,
there was a
yes.
false pick, picks and bans. We will go straight back into them as soon as possible, and they will be
That
exactly the
explains
same.
the Rumble. Probably
Yes.
not a Rumble pick. They probably wanted something else, and then...
Well, it could be the cannon that was the false pick, so it could still be the Rumble
I see,
for them. We'll wait until we get to that point in picks and bans,
Okay.
or until our producers inform us exactly.
But
of
as
which
far
pick
as
was
we're
the false
aware,
pick.
first half of the draft, identical.
Rumble pick was the wrong one.
Okay,
So
there we
all
go.
of our hypothesizing about how much flexibility you had with the Rumble is not going to happen. We'll come into second pick phase with Urgot, Rakan, and Zin on the side of XL, and Aatrox, Caitlyn, and Morgana on the side of Splyce.
All right, so so far XL, they kind of have a pretty well-rounded composition. They have strong engage, they have good early jungle presence, they have a solid mid game with what they've got for themselves so far, whereas Splyce very much more lane focused with their drafts right now. Aatrox, very strong laner into pretty much all matchups. Even the Urgot one, you can debate for days who's actually stronger in the Urgot versus Aatrox battle. And then they have the Caitlyn Morgana, so very much focused around getting that bot lane dominance, applying pressure to the tower, and we'll see how quickly those plates end up dropping for the side of in favor of Splyce.
Yeah, that's the thing, isn't it? Caitlyn Morgana just wants to push that lane and push that lane and push that lane, and Rakan is not a laning support, especially into Morgana. Usually the way that you win a lane on Rakan is you engage. You just keep fighting, you can dodge in and out, you take the trades. Into a Morgana, you cannot do that. You're waiting for level 6, maybe then you can get an ultimate combo off. But before that, XL are really going to struggle down towards that bottom side. So I wonder how they're going to mitigate that, or whether they're just going to say, okay, bot, you're on your own, we'll play on the other side of the map.
So, just to inform everyone, we are jumping back into picks and bans. As a reminder, the draft for the first half will remain the same. Akali, Irelia, Cassio, I believe, were the bans for Splyce.
Yep, Galio for Splyce.
Galio.
And then Karthus, Cassio, Lucian on the side of XL.
Okay.
Splyce picked Aatrox, Caitlyn, Morgana. I mean, we're going to see it in a second, so there's no reason me going through all of them. We'll see them on the
Just
screen.
as a quick reminder, so yeah, we're going to quickly catch up on that one, and then we kind of theorize what's moving into the second half for both these teams. Remember, XL, rather, so many X's.
Yeah, there's Expect, XL, and XL. It's the triple X threat. Vin Diesel's in here now.
XL will be looking for an AD carry and potentially a mid or top laner, depending on where they put the Aatrox. And with the Lissandra banned away, and the Rise and the LeBlanc, all these things taken off the board, you kind of go to XL and it's like, what's he got left in his champion pool? Well, he used to play a lot of Yasuo, he used to play a lot of Zoe, neither of which are the strongest in the current meta. But I have seen some Yasuos being played bot, more so in solo queue than in pro play.
And with the Rakan, that's a quite common duo as well.
That's true, yeah. A lot of knockups, actually.
Yeah, you've got the Xinzao knockup, you've got the Urgot Disdain with the E, you've got the Rakan knockups, of course, as well. We're waiting on the final couple of bans in the second phase. It's Rise and Lissandra, as you said, taken away by XL, Xayah and LeBlanc taken away by Splyce, and then XL will have the first pick coming into the second phase. Looking towards that mid, looking towards the jungle as well. Maybe top, depending on where the Urgot goes.
Well, bots, because you assume that these
Yes,
yes. So, okay, it was a Kai'Sa. So very traditional, very standard, very short range against the Caitlyn, but definitely outscales. Very strong in the team fights as well. Largely, I believe the Storm Razor is the primary rush on a lot of Kai'Sas, and then you translate that into a Rage Blade. Very strong 2-item spike, really solid in team fights, a lot of mobility. And Splyce, they're just kind of going for very standard. Again, a lot of flexibility with this Scion. You can put it both in top and in mid. We still don't know where the Aatrox is going. My instincts say that the Aatrox is in the mid lane. But Splyce have now rounded their composition out with insanely strong team fighting. Very good siege. Not the fastest Baron, but when you have the ability to just throw your ultimates out, you have huge damage across the board. Storm Razor's Caitlyn has been rising in popularity a lot as well. I just feel like Splyce have all the tools to start these fights, actually kick things off.
Just to reiterate for anyone who may have missed it, Jessica accidentally picked Rumble in the pick and ban phase. He requested from League officials that we could remake the lobby with the same pick and bans up until that point, and League officials acquiesced to that request, which is why we had the remake. So you can see he picked Kai'Sa instead. We'll be getting on into the game in just a second. Like the Zillion in the bottom lane as well for XL. Wait, did they pick Rumble?
That looks like they picked Rumble.
I saw Zillion on the screen.
I'm just getting confirmation
they picked
from
Rumble.
Producers right now. Yeah, so that is in fact a Rumble
top lane.
How interesting.
That is incredibly interesting.
Back when XP played for G2, this was something that he did often play.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was under the impression that they didn't want the Rumble, but it looks like that they are in fact going to run it into the Scion up in the top lane. So this is actually a pretty strong lane for the Rumble. The one thing about him is that he's always had strong pushing power. His team fighting is also very notable. The thing is that he doesn't really have that many escapes. And the thing for XL's comp is that they don't really have that much of a front line. Their team fighting is very solid, but you kind of compare it across the board to Splyce's, and they have two very big tanks. They have the Morgana for CC mitigation as well. They have crowd control, they have damage. I just feel like in terms of team fighting power, Splyce just kind of have a lot more. They could also play the 1-3-1 if they wanted to, because Aatrox is very solid off in a side lane as well, if you so choose. Yeah, I'm very surprised by this Rumble pick, but it's very much about playing around the lane. I think that with this strategy, XL, they're going to look to invest a lot more resources into the top side of the map.
Oh, definitely, and that's what you want to do with a Xin Zhao as well. We are going to jump on to the Summoners Rift. First time we'll have seen XL and Splyce in the new season of the League of Legends European Championship. And what a season it's shaping up to be. Already an upset in Game 1. Maybe we'll see another here as the UK underdogs take on the gatekeepers of Splyce. So Norscaren's forgot to buy any items.
Good spot there. Medic. When will Norscaren notice? Wait, but he does have his trinket, doesn't he?
Yeah, you get your trinket as you walk on out of base.
Ah, yes, of course. Yes.
So, yes, no items for Norscaren yet. Maybe some sort of 3D mind games.
Let's see how long he notices, because you noticed in 30 seconds. I didn't notice until you popped it out.
As a support main, the amount of times I've walked out of base, I need to get my wards down.
He still hasn't noticed. The minions are going to spawn soon.
Oh, Kobe actually might overstep a little bit here. Kadra's going to get the jump on in. Flash away from Kobe. 1 minute into the game, and Kobe is a summoner down.
That's a flashless Kobe with an itemless
support.
Norscaren.
Yep.
And he still hasn't noticed.
And XL are invading.
Yes, they are.
Four-man invade towards this red buff. There, Norscarin noticed. That's way too late. You're not going to get back in lane in time.
1 minute 20.
That's a wave and a half or so of XP. I think he's going to lose. Might just be a wave depending on how this red buff goes.
Depends also how fast they dive. We'll have to wait and see. But XL, starting off with the early aggression, going to steal away the red buff. Now, the reason why they're doing this is because they want to trade sides of the map. So they want to split the map. So this means that XL control the bottom half, whereas Splyce control the top half. And the reason why this is important is because they recognize that Kobe and Norscarin want to push. They want to constantly apply pressure. They want to get into the face of XL. And Splyce can't do that because they don't have jungle assistance. Kadra will always be hanging around the bottom side of the map. You never know when he's going to show up, so that means that you have to play much more defensively. So Splyce can't leverage the early level power of a Caitlyn and a Morgana.
Interestingly, Norscarin has gone for the Guardian down towards that bottom side as well, so we'll make him and Kobe just a little bit tankier in that lane if this dive goes down. They're looking for the level 2. There's the engage. Kobe, black shield straight away. Great stuff from Norscarin. Heal came out as well from Kobe, but stopped XL in their tracks.
I wonder if Norscarin had actually maxed anything when coming into lane, and he was just sitting there waiting to see what would happen. Flash was used from Kasing. Well, they knew that Kobe had no flash, so they wanted to try and punish it. So both flashes were used from XL, but insane reaction speed from Norscarin, living up to some of the hype that he built up for himself last year.
Exactly. Great stuff from the support for Splyce. Still a CS lead for Jessica in that bottom lane. About 10 CS up has mitigated a lot of that pressure in the early game. You can see Kadra just controlling this bottom side jungle. They're going for that split down the middle in terms of jungle. Xerxes gets the Razor Beaks on this side, Kadra gets the Razor Beaks on the other side, and it's all just a balancing act.
So while that action was happening in the bot side of the map, and it looks like Kadra has his eyes on the bot side again.
They know this ward is here. They did spot it on their own Tribush ward, so Kadra knows he's walking over vision.
And remember, diving towers is really hard this early into the game, but because Kobe has no summoner spells, and that's a level 2 Caitlyn and a level 1 Morgana versus 2 level 3s, they feel confident they can just zone them away from the tower. And this just goes back to why they split the map, why that invade was so important. You can mitigate so much pressure if you can control halves of the map. And because Xerxes couldn't help his bot side, because the jungler wasn't present to kind of push Kadra away, that means that Splyce's duo is now very far behind.
Already a turret plating going over to XL as well, so even with that 14 CS lead, you're looking at more gold in the back pockets of XL. Look at that difference. Already 400 between the two AD carries.
That's
only
a kill.
4 minutes in. That's a kill. That's 100 extra gold a minute that Jessica has got over his lane opponent.
So, a lot of action has been happening down towards the bot side of the map, but we also got to talk a little bit about the top, because there is a Rumble in the game. We haven't seen a Rumble in a very long time, and Expect was one of the players in the past that used to be a big fan of this when he played for G2 Esports back in the day. The thing about Rumble is he has a very strong mid-game. He often pushes a lot during the laning phase, and usually junglers have to play around him in order to make sure that he doesn't get ganked all the time. But he's kind of played much more defensively in the early levels. He was actually getting pushed underneath his tower, and that is just because of an awareness that, hey, my jungler is bot side, that means their jungler is top side. So if I get greedy, if I overpush, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble. So that's why the farm is very even right now, and why Expect isn't generating as much pressure as a Rumble typically would.
All right. 2 years ago, in spring 2017, Expect had an 89% win rate on Rumble, went 8-1 for G2.
That's quite impressive.
On that champion. That was in the regular season. And yeah, it is quite impressive. It's an aggressive champion. It plays mid-game teamfights very well, but it does fall off as the game progresses. So we have to keep our eyes on him if Splyce are able to delay the game, stall out for a big Caitlyn, for a big frontline in those teamfights.
I think it's important to explain why, because the damage part of him doesn't really fall off, right? He still hits very hard, but he's quite short range, so it can be difficult to get onto the carries. And when you kind of think of a 3-4 item Caitlyn against a squishy Rumble in the late game, that Rumble just melts. So you can't offer the same late game value that you could in the mid game, which is why he comes so much harder to play.
See Xerxes just going for the Scuttle Crab here. Of course, joined up with Vizichachi once again. A long time since those two were together on Unicorns of Love. And Splyce have formed this roster, this new roster with 3 new players trying to overcome some of their gatekeeper mentality. They're looking to be this team that will continue to progress year on year, after having such a strong year last year.
Yeah, back in 2018, Splyce really did look very solid. We talked a little bit about it earlier on during the delay, but they finished 3rd place in Spring Split. They went to 5 games versus Schalke, the finalists, in the quarterfinals, and they went to 5 games versus G2, the world semi-finalists, in the gauntlet. So you can just kind of see that even though on paper it didn't look like the accolades were the best, they had a lot of strong opponents that they really pushed to the brink.
And you just have to look at, look back to the start of spring. Splyce struggled no end. W1D1 fed his butt off in a lot of those games, and still they were able to overcome and make it into the playoffs and make it to that 3rd place match. Now, Kadra's gone for an invade here. Xerxes going to trade into him. Skirmisher Saber with a longsword up against just a Skirmisher Saber, and Kadra's winning out for the moment. Humanoid on his way with the World Ender. Exile's going to come across the wall as well. Needs to go in. Lands the fear beyond Jet and will pull the Sejuani back. We're having meat tonight, says Exile. 1-for-1 trade.
Ooh, really good trade there, but over-aggression from Kadral in the jungle. I love the fact that Humanoid popped his World Ender to get there faster, but now we have more action up in the top side.
Flame Spitter from the Rumble, just trading onto Chachi's health bar. Not really expecting to take him down. It is a Scion after all, pretty tanky in that top lane.
Just trying to keep his pink ward alive, but unable to do so. But yeah, ends up being a 1-for-1. I did not expect that ultimate from Exile to actually secure...
Threaded the needle.
Yeah, but I didn't expect it to get the kill either. I didn't think that he was low enough health, but you can see the Halo Blade Xin Zhao coming out once again. The amount of early game damage that it can do is ridiculous, but also Aatrox in the early game, a lot of damage as well. But then, yeah, Exile just barely able to get enough damage down to find himself a kill. And he walks away as a happy mid laner. So both mid laners very happy, both junglers not so much. But the game's still very even.
Incredibly even. 1-1, 100 gold between the two teams. That CS discrepancy that we saw in the bottom lane, that's evened out as well. Both AD carries on the same farm now. You expect the Caitlyn to be able to do that in this lane.
But also think about what would have happened in this lane if that much jungle attention wasn't invested early, right? The fact that Caitlyn has been able to come back shows you how one-sided this lane matchup is in favor of Splyce, and now they've been able to close that gap nicely, which means that they're going to start sieging onto this tower and poking things down, and here we see an engage.
Engaged, Nuskeven wasn't there in time. Kasing gets a lot of damage down, but rooted up. Kadra's on his way as well. The cleanse used, expects teleported down towards the bottom lane. Xerxes here as well, Kobe low, doesn't have the ability to get away. He's just going to get chucked out by Jetsko. They get to. Incredible stuff from XL, diving in the bottom lane.
And all of XL's focus is going into shutting down Kobe and Norskeren. They invest a teleport. It was very nicely done because it was right behind Kobe and Norskeren before they could react. Xerxes was not in a position to be able to get close enough to kind of deter the gank, which means that XL find themselves two pretty easy kills that they'll convert into a Cloud Drake as well.
And they invested on it as a team. All 5 members coming down there. Expect with the early teleport, you can't cancel that anymore. They needed to get something out of it, and because of some good play from Kasing early on, they were able to.
So let's look at the minimap here. Rumble goes back to base. He's ready. He needs to buy. He's telling his team, okay, I can TP in. So Norskeren, or Kasing rather, goes to the engage. He locks up Kobe. Kobe still has his flash. The moment the Rumble ult comes through, he realizes, oh no, I'm trapped between 4 very angry XL members. It takes them a while to get the kill onto Kobe, but they wanted to give the gold over to Jeskla, and that means that XL picks up a kill. He's now sitting at 2-0. Jeskla picks up a kill. He's now 1-0-1, and this dominant lane that Splyce relied on in the early game has been completely shut down.
And just a minute ago, I was talking about how even the game was. Now there's about a 500, 600 gold lead for XL. They've got that Cloud Drake in their back pocket as well, so there'll be some speedy boys walking across the map. Next up is an Infernal, so I'd like to see both teams trying to set up vision down towards that dragon if they can.
But I love the preparedness that we're seeing from XL. The early invade in the jungle, the denial of farm from the Caitlyn Morgana lane, and then the teleport towards bot, setting up that ward to allow it to happen, knowing that Kobe and Norskeren would push, to then punish it. And you can see that XL have come into this game with a plan. And they've said, okay, we see the Caitlyn Morg, we have to shut it down. Rather than try and avoid it, let's kill it, let's deny it. And they've done a fantastic job. And I feel like with SK impressing earlier, XL now looking to impress again, I've been really impressed with these new orgs joining the league.
Definitely have XL trading onto Humanoid here as well. Let's put the Fear Beyond Death down. The World Enter will drag him back, but of course can't get the kill through that invulnerability. XL has to flash away from the Glacial Prison as well, but still, XL winning these trades in the mid lane. much more 10-0 than 0-10 Exile at the moment.
So, Exile showing that he can definitely be a big carry if he wants to be. Now Kadril working with his mid and jungle to gain pressure in the river. And now they're looking for a potential dive. Humanoid very, very low right now. Doesn't have his ultimate, but Xerxes here to keep him alive.
Does still have the flash, and Exile doesn't have an ultimate of his own, so it's a very difficult dive if you're going to go for it. Kadril's had pretty good control of the jungle thus far this game. Exile using their bot lane to come up and clear vision as well, just to try and help deny any awareness of Humanoid in this mid lane.
And we've also got a rotation from the XL bot lane. Caitlyn or Morgana haven't been fast enough to swap, so they're just going to keep picking up these turret plates. The wave clear doesn't exist right now for Aatrox, and that's 3 plates going down in favor of XL. A lot of extra gold going to be picked up, and this also means that a Rift Herald will go in the back pockets of Caitlyn.
It was so common in the past where we'd see a team take a dragon and trade for the Rift Herald, or trade, you know, a part of a first tower for the Rift Herald. Now it seems very much more like teams can get both the dragon and the Rift Herald if they play the cards right.
I'm very impressed with what XL have been able to do, and they come back to the bot lane to pick themselves up some nice farm as well. So all well and good for the early game of XL. Oh, that's the ulti from XL. He needs one more hit.
Oh, Humanoid flashes away from it. You could see him just like tasting it. It's like, I want my meal tonight. You're not going to deny me, but he doesn't. Kadril now on his way. Humanoid realizes able to get away with the onboard trespass just for the moment. Xerxes going to turn it around. Kadril's gone a little bit too deep here, a little bit too ham, and Xerxes will take him down because of it.
Huge overextension there from Kadril. This is the second time we've seen it this game. First at the blue buff, now underneath the tower. That's an easy kill picked up for Splyce. But XL, they're not conceding the pressure.
They have that demolish on Kissing, which will mean they can take these towers down a little bit more easily. Good play there from Xerxes in that last fight, though. Able to be in the right place at the right time to make sure that Kadril couldn't take down Humanoid.
So, XL sitting on a pretty healthy gold lead right now. They're the ones being super proactive on the map. And I think it's important to remind viewers about what Splyce's game plan was. Snowball the bot tower, run around the map. Oh, before we get to that, we can go into this replay. So you can see clutch flash here from Humanoid. What XL doesn't spot is that Xerxes is actually hanging around the mid lane still, and Kadril thinks, oh, this is an easy kill, I can pick this one up, no problem. He flashes in, tries to get the kill, but a great dash from Humanoid over the wall actually creates a big enough gap to allow Xerxes to come in and save him. And then Xerxes ends up picking up the kill as well. So definitely greedy there from Kadril. He didn't need to make that play. He could have just come to the tower instead, delayed the back, gone a little bit of extra damage down. But there we are, hindsight is 2020.
So before we got into that replay, you were talking about how Splyce's game plan was to snowball through the bottom lane. They haven't been able to do that as of yet.
Yes, and that's why they're constantly on the back foot right now, because when you're running this Caitlyn, ideally you take a tower very quickly, and then you use the early gold with your Storm Razor, and you kind of move around this one-item spike Caitlyn to kind of constantly take down tower and tower and tower and tower. XL planned for this, they shut it down, so they're the ones dictating the pace of the early game, so now Splyce will be looking to stall things out, given the early game didn't go the way that they had planned, and they'll be relying on these late game team fights with this very strong front line that they have with Sejuani Scion. They have good engage, and then they should have good follow-up damage once the Caitlyn hits about 3 items.
Question is, will they be able to stall for that 3-item point? Because now the Infernal Drake is on the cards. XL will be looking to get that. Of course, gives you a little bit more AD and AP now since the last time we played on a professional patch. 10% for the first Infernal Dragon as a buff. Kadril's going to start it up. You've got the bot lane pushing in. Xerxes now jumps into the pit. Still has the Arctic Assault to jump out if he needs to. Can just tunnel his way across the wall, which is what he does. Kadril backs away from the dragon for the moment.
It was a little bit of a risky play to start from Kadril, but the teleport is up and available from Expect. You can see he's going back to base now. We'll pick up his first item, which will be the Morellonomicon. And XL just maintaining vision control around this area. Going to push out mid, they need to push out bot, and then they can look for something like the Drake. Oh, good trade there for Humanoid, though.
Yeah, the Darkened Blade doing quite a lot of work. XL is going to keep him on the back foot, though. The Infernal Drake's been started. That control ward denying any vision for Splyce for the moment. Xerxes have to jump across if he wants to get in there in time, because it's down to 1,000 HP, and already the Infernal Drake is gone, but Splyce might want the fight. You can see Xerxes waiting just around the corner, misses the bowler. Kadril now needs to get away. Will pop his own ultimate. It's rooted in place and will sacrifice himself for the dragon.
So 1 life for Infernal Drake is not too bad for XL, depending on your perspective. Definitely picking up that gold for Humanoid is going to be nice for the Aatrox, now sitting at 2-0 and 1, and it means that Splyce can start to push these other lanes out because the threat of a jungler is gone. But Infernal Drake later on into the game, always going to be very valuable, increasing your overall damage now by 10% compared to the old 8, given the the recent buffs that did happen to it.
Big thing just happened here, Vedius, and I just spotted that the Rift Tower had actually expired on Cadril as he was dead. So that is actually a much more beneficial situation for Splyce than it would have been if they'd been able to use that Rift Tower.
Good spot there, Medic, because that could have actually been especially with the towers now squishier after we passed the 14-minute mark, that definitely would have helped, especially around the bot side of the map, secure a tower, but XL not going to be able to leverage that, and the gold starts to close up a little bit more. So this is...
Ooh, XL farming minions. But the new overlay is cool, so that's...
Very cool.
Yeah.
So we are back to live.
XL did a really good job of getting those minions, actually.
So, one thing I also want to bring attention to the viewers is you'll notice what the supports are doing right now. See, if you look at your minimap, you can see that both of them have actually ran down mid rather than straight to bot. That's because they want to group up with their jungler / mid laner to get a bit of vision around the map. Maintaining control around this area is very, very important, and the primary vision provider is your support. So they're going to group up, and they're going to just offer that extra bit of assistance to set that all up.
That they are... You have to look at the supports on each side as well. Norscarin, of course, known last split for his very enthusiastic cams, his dabbing on camera as well, but also for his engaged plays and how well he played on Rockout. On the other side, XL built their team around their support. They built their team around Kasing, who is one of the most veteran players in the LEC.
Yep, but we might not have time as a fight is kicking off.
Humanoid pops the World Ender, looking for the engage onto Cadril. Exhaust comes down as well. Cadril jumps away. There's the Beer Beyond Death, but it's not going to get the kill because, of course, that World Ender was on. Cadril goes gold, and Xerxes now on the wrong side of Expect. Kasing coming forward. Humanoid chasing onto Exo. The fight's on two fronts. They could just about catch Xerxes, and they will survive for the moment, but the decimating smash from Chachi's going to try and keep Exile in place. Pulled back. No. Flashes away. Norscarin now dead as well, and Exile have come out on top of the fight. Look at Kasing. He's chasing forward once again, leading the front line for Excel as they find 2 kills in the mid lane.
So XL come out on top at the back end of that fight. It all became very sporadic as everyone was kind of split apart. But the most crucial thing is that Jeskla and Kasing got to the fight before Cobbett and Norscarin could. XL extend their gold lead now to just over 2,000 as the veteran roster of Splyce fall further behind.
Incredible stuff from XL, because it looked like Cadril was caught out. It looked like XL was caught out, but piece by piece, XL just put the team fight right into the right position.
Yes, they certainly did. And all started off with actually Humanoid around the river. He popped his ultimate very early on. It kind of looked like the Splyce were the ones looking to set up this engagement, but he ends up getting caught out. But yeah, no, look, he immediately ults. He's like, I've got Sejuani behind me. I've got a Scion ulting in. I can melt through Cadril. This isn't a problem at all. And it actually ends up a 3 versus 2 before the fight really kicks off. Expect doesn't get the best ultimate either, but here, Jeskla and Cadril, they arrive to the fight. Xerxes now split off. Splyce cannot lock down Exile, and he can regroup with his team. And then the flash over the wall from Norscarin looks good at first, but he did not have a stopwatch. He couldn't go invulnerable and set up the crowd control for the rest of his team to follow. And honestly, his team wasn't in a position to follow anyway. The Caitlyn couldn't get involved. Vizichachi used his ultimate. Humanoid didn't have his ultimate available either. So Splyce, their coordination in that fight was just a little bit all over the place, and XL were quick to capitalize.
That replay was brought to you by Alienware, and what a replay it was, because XL now will look to open up the game just a little bit more. They've got that mid tower down, 2 towers in their favor as they took down top as well. They have this 3,000 gold lead. At the 20-minute mark, we talked about how strong they can be in the mid game with the Rumble, with the Xin Zhao, with the Urgot.
Yep.
What's their next objective? Are they just going to look straight towards the Baron?
For Excel?
Yes.
I think going for a Baron this early on is very, very risky. They only really have the Urgot to tank it up, so... and I mean, it's relatively fast, but I still think this early on is dangerous, especially against this team fight content that Splyce have, where they kind of want you to group up in that situation. I think XL's right now main goal is to push into the enemy jungle, gain more vision control, deny enemy camps, and leverage the fact that you have a pretty solid lead in the mid-game, and you can just deny more farm. Put yourself in a better situation, extend that gold lead just slightly further, and then look to posture around the Baron. And rather than just commit to it and then force them to fight, see if you can find a pick or a fight before the objective actually happens.
Definitely makes a lot of sense. And you have the pick tools in the form of the Xin Zhao, in the form of the Rakan as well. So if you can just catch one member out, you then start a 4v5. That will work out incredibly well for XL. It looks like it's a 1-3-1 for the moment for them. Exile up in the top lane. Expect over in the bottom lane. And Vizichachi's going to try and answer Exile for the moment, but not really going to be able to do too much because he's a Scion answering into an Urgot. And we do have a quick pause, as I'm sure we will find something to be rectified in just a second.
Right, so we will find out where the pause has come from, but all in all, XL surprising, I would say. They've had a bit of a unique pick with the Rumble up in the top lane. They also have come out the gate swinging with a very effective early game strategy, and now they're playing these team fights and playing the game very well.
That they are, and I think Splyce maybe slightly disappointing. Like, XL have played well, but Splyce also haven't always had the answer they needed to the way that XL played. Like, the level 1, level 2 action with the red buff invade, Norscarin not having his items to start off with, Kobe maybe overextending to get vision a little bit at level 1, burning his flash. There were a few mistakes there that I'm sure Splyce will want to weed out.
I think that Splyce were just not expecting XL to come in as prepared as they were. The fact that Caitlyn or Morgana was drafted should have been a surprise to many people, because the thing about Caitlyn Morgana is that it's not really that high on the tier list. It's not something that many teams have prioritized around the world, and so why would XL suddenly have a strategy to try and mitigate it and shut it down? But having spoken to some of the analysts, like they were like very conscientious of things like the Caitlyn. They wanted to make sure that they were prepared for kind of as much as possible, and you can see how well they were able to execute upon the strategy of denying the Caitlyn and not allowing it to snowball through the early game. So I've been impressed with XL. They're sitting on about a 2,500, 3,000 gold lead right now, and they're looking very good.
Just so that everyone at home understands what page we're on, XL report they did not hear the Scion ultimate in the last teamfight, and League officials are reviewing the Shadow play now. I think we're going to play on, so we should be getting on into the action in just a second. And that's good, because I like watching League of Legends and talking about League of Legends, and these guys are going to play some League of Legends.
Excellent. Yep, I can confirm the pause has been resolved. And here we are. So what we were talking about, you asked about next steps. XL will push in the waves. They know they have a gold lead, so Splyce kind of have to concede. They don't have that level of pressure. And XL are just dropping bits of wards down, stealing away camps, making Splyce uncomfortable. Maybe they'll face check a brush and they'll get caught out. Maybe they'll overextend and get into a fight that they don't want to get into. Ultimately, what XL are just doing is saying, come on, Splyce, come to us, come check. And Splyce are like, we're okay for now. We're going to stay back here. We're going to play a little more defensive.
And this is the moment you sometimes see newer organizations mess up a little bit, because it's about doing it by the numbers. It's about not skipping steps. You know, you have to get your vision control in. You have to get the deep wards in. You then clear the vision. You reset. You get deeper wards in. You clear the vision again. You get your waves in the right position. And that's how you set up for these picks, for these plays in the mid to late game.
Did I lend you my handbook? Is that what you've been studying?
We live in the same house. Every night, I sneak in, I read the diary, and after it says I love the fish show for a few pages, it's like, oh, okay, League of Legends.
You weren't supposed to tell people about that.
I'm sorry, man. I feel hurt sometimes, because I've never seen an I Love Medic in there. But I see a lot of I Love the Fish.
While we live together, it would be wrong.
That would be awful. That's true, actually. I'm glad I've never seen one.
I must keep my emotions in check. Now, Splyce, they're looking to find a kill on Expect.
Great stun onto Expect there. Locks him down. He has the flash, but he's actually going to try and use it to come down here. Humanoid will get the kill. Good stuff from Splyce. They're the ones to find the pick.
So this was a bit of an oversight from XL, because typically, if Splyce are sending 2 members all the way up into the middle of the top lane when they have no tower there, XL should be generating pressure elsewhere in order to try and punish Splyce. But because there wasn't that pressure, instead they tried to save Expect. It means that Splyce can walk away with a kill, get back some of the vision that they had on the map, pick themselves up a bit of gold as well, and now you have Humanoid sitting at 3-0-1 on this Aatrox, will really be one of the defining factors in turning this game back in favor of Splyce.
And now has his second completed item as well, alongside with that Black Cleaver. The Yumu's Ghostblade was his first, then Black Cleaver. Both AD carries sitting on 2 items as well, so I'd like to see Jeskla being used a little bit more by XL here. We talked about how strong a Kai'Sa can be on the Stormrazor Ginsu's power spike.
Certainly true. But again, it's all about creating a circumstance where they can then create that team fight. And the fact that they've just lost that tower is definitely a big deal. So XL, they're going to have to reset. The gold gap has closed just a tad. And now XL resetting their vision around the Baron.
It's always been around that 1,000, 2,000 mark. XL do have triple dragon, because they got that second cloud as well, so they're going to be very speedy, and I'm sure Kasing will be very happy about that, of course, on the Rakan. Makes it a lot easier for him to get on towards that backline. But if a couple of the XL members die, they will be giving up those bounties as well.
So earlier on, we were talking a little bit about Kasing, and how for him, he's the second oldest player in the EU LCS.
You know why I'm sad about that? Both of us are older than him.
He's 25. But also, this is his 200th EU LCS game. Technically, his first LEC game.
Yeah.
But he's definitely played in Europe for a very long time. He ranks 18th out of 225 for most LCS games played. And we kind of talk about him being the captain of this team, him kind of being the franchise player, as it were, the player that this team was built around, and kind of that leader, that shot caller. And on this Rakan, so far, he's had a fantastic game. And there have always been question marks around Kasing, around how strong is he? Can he only play ranged supports? Is he someone that you can really rely on to be a leader? And that's something that's going to be evaluated throughout the split. But so far in this first game, things have looked pretty good for the side of XL. So as the captain, he immediately takes all the credit.
And it almost takes Xerxes' face, a flail to his face as well, as he's just able to dodge away in the last second. Has that Zeke's convergence finish, which I really like on the Rakan, one of his key items. Expect overextended once again. You can see Exile's down towards the bottom lane, does have the teleport, but Xerxes here and has that ultimate. Doesn't quite connect, the ace in the hole coming out as well. They're burning everything on Expect, but a kill is a kill, says Splyce, and they will take down the top laner of XL.
But again, XL, they can't really punish anywhere else on the map. They don't have a minion wave against this mid-tier 2. Exile is pushing down towards the bot tier 2, but I don't know if they're going to be able to secure this, which means that Splyce find themselves another pick. They alleviate some of the pressure. Unfortunately for them, XL might just have enough damage to secure this objective. So it wasn't all that bad for XL. They still come out ultimately on top.
It's only one tower, though, for the kill, and as we say, Splyce just wanted delay and delay and delay. We talked about 3 items on Caitlyn. That's what Kobe's going to be looking for. That's what is in the eyes of all of the Splyce players, because if they can get there, you have a tanky front line, and you've only really got a Kai'Sa to try and work his way through it.
But the important thing as well is that Splyce are maintaining vision around this Baron, which is the primary objective that they don't want to lose, because for them, it is the easiest situation for them to force a fight, which they can feel confident that they can win. So you're right, they're stalling out, they're waiting for this moment in time, when the big purple worm becomes the primary objective, and then they can just play around it. So Splyce, things going quite well for them so far. XL really haven't been able to find a successful play really within the last 10 minutes.
It's what we used to know Splyce for as well in spring and summer of last year. Just like stall for the late game. Yep. Eventually, Kobe will get 5 items on Caitlyn. Yep. We'll just auto attack. It's when Kasing was on the team, of course, playing against his former team today. As his mid lane tower will get chunked out pretty quickly. Tower's very vulnerable after they lose their plating. Like paper mache, just melt away in the rain.
XL is pushing in the bot lane. Expect does have a teleport, still no flash. We'll go catch that wave up towards the top side, but Humanoid has his eyes on the Yordle. Here comes the Yomus.
I feel like we're in the point where Humanoid just 1v1s this right now. Expect just trying to walk his way away, but the stopwatch straight into the ultimate, and Expect for the 3rd time in a row will be XL's death. Splyce take the lead in the kill score.
XL's trying his best to pressure, but Vizichachi is there, Kobe's on his way.
Yeah, now XL's just pushed too far as well. Didn't realize that Kobe was on this side of the map, but Kobe will just continually pound away with those headshots. Not really a huge amount XL can do. He's trying to walk his way away, but eventually he'll fall. Shut down, goes across to Chachi, and XL don't really have an answer.
Yeah, and the flash comes in from Kasing. He's not able to land the charm. He will finally hit Xerxes.
Kado's going to jump forward, but Xerxes still has his flash. So that's the ultimate used by Kasing. The flash and Jeskala's ultimate, really for only the flash of Xerxes.
And now you can see the experience difference between the two teams. Splyce, in this mid to late game portion, are recognizing the holes in XL's strategy and are punishing them for it every single time. Expect has been the primary target. XL have not done much to keep him alive, keep him safe, allow him to create the pressure they can utilize to push into Splyce's base. And Splyce have worked their way back into the game. Items are being completed. 3 items now on Humanoid. Level 16 for this Aatrox. And Splyce are the ones that now get to dictate the pace of the game.
Infernal Drake on the cards, no ultimate on Kasing. Root's going to land, but that's only on to Expect. Here comes the teleport. The fight's going to start, but look at the damage coming out from Kobe. Bullets to the back of Expect, down to half HP already. Xerxes comes in, straight into the bowler. Cage will get demolished, and all of XL get deleted. 2 down already, and Splyce just keep rolling that train forward. There's no stopping the hype train for Splyce right now. There's a 3rd kill, the tower their target.
Perfect 5v5 team fight for Splyce. They started off by getting very good chip damage down onto Expect, and then they just followed it up from there. Great ultimate from Xerxes. Humanoid demonstrating what he can do on this champion, and now they make their way towards the Baron with Cagel dead.
No ultimate on Expect. Jeskala just about to get his up as well, but do you even take this fight if you're XL? Looks like they're going to leave it, go for the Infernal Drake themselves. Some sort of semblance of hope maybe in having double Infernal in the cloud.
Humanoid's on his way. He has his ultimate up as well.
Has been spotted on that ward. There's the teleport coming in as well. Gonna fight this one. Jessica staying around to get the dragon. Just about gets it. Will sacrifice himself. But can an insect flash? Gets away for the moment. Humanoid can still chase forward. Flash ignite. That's a lot burnt from Humanoid there.
Yeah, but it will still be a Baron in favor of Splyce. They finally get themselves the gold lead. And this is the late game Splyce that we were talking about. So I didn't expect this roster to have a similar playstyle, but it seems like they do. Initial binding lands on from Noscorin, and just look at the amount of combined damage coming out from Kobe and Noscarin onto Expect. He gets chipped down. Now they're all clumped up to allow this engage to come out from the side of Splyce. The Sejuani ultimate, the Scion ultimate, the damage from Humanoid, and just the safety that Kobe has behind it all means that they have a fantastic teamfight composition that just melts through XL.
Great stuff from Splyce. Finally found that team composition come online. They've got the Baron, they've got an Infinity Edge on their AD carry as well. Very good position all around. About a 2,000 gold lead for Splyce, coming up to the 30-minute mark, and you have to feel teamfight's only going to get harder and harder for XL now.
Yep, there's the Infinity Edge on the Caitlyn. That's a big yikes. Definitely going to be something you have to respect. Xerxes with the ultimate looking for someone.
Unstoppable Onslaught hits onto Exile. He's the tankiest member of XL though, and there comes the Equalizer. Engage on the backline. The Charm's going to connect, but here comes Humanoid looking for the Darkin Blade, seeing if he can land those knockup. Already down quite low, but the World Ender will bring him back. And now maybe XL can turn it around. Cadro chunked out by Kobe, who is now on the front line for Splyce. And XL able to hold on for the moment.
Unfortunately, Jessica didn't have his ultimate available. That could have been a big factor in swinging the fight in favor of XL, but they hold the attack from Splyce. That Baron slowly whittling down. No objective is converted in Splyce's favor. They will find a tower towards the bot side of the map, but still the fact that XL walked away with all of their members alive, definitely something they can be happy with.
And Humanoid continuing to show us why so many people rated him coming into the LEC. Look at his rotational flanking play in this fight.
So he dives immediately onto the backline. All the engaged tools get thrown onto Kobe, who doesn't get touched thanks to a great black shield from Noscarin. They're trying to land as much single target CC onto XL to kill him, but as you identified, he is the tankiest member on this XL squad, so he survives for an incredibly long time. And unfortunately for Splyce, they're not able to find a kill secure onto him. But now they're back in the positioning of sieging. They have Baron empowered minions in 2 waves, and they're slowly chipping down these tier 2 towers.
That's all you have to do. As we said before, you get a cannon minion every wave after the 25-minute mark, which makes it even easier to push with Baron because you don't have to wait for the cannon wave. It's just going to be there. It's going to help you out. This bottom lane tower will fall pretty quickly as Expect just waits for the cannons to push in and lose that Baron buff. XL still holding on to the mid lane. King's coming up towards top 4 Splyce. They just want to work their way around here by the numbers. Kasing standing on a ward as well as he looked for an engage opportunity.
Jessica will have to be the big carry in these upcoming fights. It's going to be difficult. Level 14 to level 16 Kobe. But he's the one with 3 items completed. He is kind of the late game threat that XL will be relying on to turn these fights in their favor. Now remember, Expect does have damage, but it's much harder to pull that damage off as the game gets longer and longer. So XL's composition is starting to taper off. It will definitely struggle against this front line of Splyce. And while things look great for XL in the early game, their mid-game, it kind of looked promising, but they left a couple of gaps. They left a couple of holes that Splyce were very quick to punish. And you know, that kind of ties back in to the experience that we talked a lot about with Splyce. They have a lot of returning members. Vizichachi and Xerxes, former Unicorns of Love, reunited. Kobe and Noscarin. Noscarin, a guy that showed a lot last year. And also you have that infrastructure for Splyce, the coaching staff that turned a team into a strong competitor towards the end of 2018.
They definitely do, and to top it all off, you have Humanoid, this rookie EU mid coming in after winning the Ultra Liga. Now showing us why he's so strong. Yet to die this game, has a 950 gold bounty on his head. Continues to champion that EU mids are the best mids all around the world.
Ambitious statement.
I'm allowed to say
Faker
it.
coming back.
Oh, come on. We've had baby Faker.
But you're definitely right. EU mids are definitely a thing. Now,
They exist.
they are a thing, yes. So Baron will be respawning in about a minute and a half. Cloud Drake will be up in 30 seconds. Those shorter respawn timers of these epic monsters definitely means that the game moves at a slightly faster pace. Question is, will Splyce be able to end before 40 minutes? Because back in the summer of, spring, very early on last year, usually Splyce's average game time was like 44 minutes.
Yes.
So we'll see if they can be a little more efficient this time around.
I mean, average game time at the moment is a little bit lower. Even LCK games count as long if they're over 35 minutes or so.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, you never know with Splyce. They like to hold on to the game for as long as possible.
They like to end it cleanly.
Yes.
So they take their time. They don't feel the need to rush.
Exactly.
And I think with the composition that they've had, that's fine. It looks like right now they're waiting for the Baron. They're just clearing out the waves, making sure they have full vision control of the river and the pit. They're just being patient. They have pressure bot, they have pressure top. Just step by step. They are very textbook Splyce.
Have they been reading your diary as well?
Well, I think they've been reading the manual as opposed to the
Okay.
diary.
If you could show me this manual at some point, because I feel color casters have an advantage. Like, you all have access to this manual.
It's not a real manual, it's like an imaginary manual that just a lot of pro players agree on, and so you then just kind of figure out what the pro players are thinking, and then you just regurgitate it.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So really all you're doing is pro player vomit.
Yes.
That's your job.
Effectively.
At least I do some exciting stuff. Just that puking everywhere.
Because I mean, like, I try to figure out what the pro players are thinking, right? And it's hard because pro players they're
Odd.
wily.
They're strange
They're
people.
difficult to read. But in terms of the game, like, usually it's just a matter of steps and options. And for Splyce, what they want is the Baron. XL want to not let Splyce have the Baron.
That makes
so,
sense.
given those choices, what options do they have available? And for Splyce, it's very much about, well, let's stop them having any vision. Let's see if we can kind of force them back, get some pressure. Whereas XL, they're looking for an engage.
I mean, Chachi was the one to step a little bit too far forward here. He's popped the Gargoyle Stone Plate. You can see XL just getting pulled back. Neither of them have taken any damage yet. Okay, please. 80 carry in 2019, XD.
But the crit from the Caitlyn after they caught XL on the trap was actually pretty significant, but he's just going to go back to base. He has the TP.
Kado's going to get pulled back here. Has the GA. Pops the Crescent Slash as well to try and get away. Chachi there. Gets the damage down, pops that GA. XL now trying to step forward, but a great bowler's going to connect, and already Kado's dead. Here comes the equalizer. Maybe XL looking to turn this one around. Kasing has the ultimate and the engage tools, but it's only Chachi really who has taken the brunt of the damage. Humanoid has a GA alongside his ultimate, so you can't really take him down.
Now, Kadril is dead. The smite is gone. I don't know if XL has used the Summoner Spellbook recently, but he could swap into a smite. The thing that Splyce can take advantage of is they have a pushing wave bot, they have a pushing wave top, they've cleared out mid, so they can just start off this Baron without XL really being able to contest.
Yeah, it looks like XL are going to trade it for the third Cloud Drake. They are going to be incredibly fast as they run back towards their base to try and defend against the Baron empowered minions from Splyce. And you saw in that fight, XL don't have a huge amount of damage yet.
Nope.
And we're near the end of the game.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That late game, it was not built for late game. It was much more built towards early to mid game, where they had the lead. They were in a position to just snowball, but they made one too many mistakes, which Splyce could use to stall out. And now they're sieging onto the base. XL have just lost their first inhibitor tower. Humanoid is sieging up topside. He's looking for another inhibitor tower. Splyce looking very clean and calculated in the late game.
8,000 gold lead now for Splyce. They break through those two inhibitor towers, looking for the inhibs to follow it up. That Baron's still got a long way left to tick. 3 minutes left on that buff for Splyce as well. They're grouped up as a 5-man in the top lane, and this inhibitor is just getting chipped away at piece by piece by piece.
XL doing what they can to defend his
Engage from Kasing, tries to get onto the backline. Jessica jumps forward as well, but he just hasn't got the damage yet. Kasing jumps out, Crescent Slash comes out from Kadril. One down, but that's the world ender. Not even the GA pop yet. XL misses. Cersei gets the kill onto Kadril. Kasing running away, and Splyce now stepping forward. Step by step, they just walk their way into the XL base, and XL really can't do much against this at all. Exile down, XL just dumpstered in their own base. Second inhibitor will fall as well, and Splyce will look for the win.
Splyce, their front line is just too tanky. XL cannot break through it. The super minions and the Baron Power minions are sieging through. Splyce are looking for more.
Kobe's just getting shut down after shutdown. Norscarin will pay for it with his life, but eventually Expect will fall. Triple kill for Kobe to round it out, and what better way to do it than with the franchise man. Splyce will pick up their first win in the LEC.
Things look very promising for XL in the early game. I love their split map. I love the way that they denied the Caitlyn Morgana in the early stages of play. But Splyce, that experience really came through. They recognized the small gaps, the small mistakes that XL were making, and they were very quick to punish. They took kills off of Expect, they found a couple of towers, they closed that goal gap, and then they just played very calm, very meticulously around things like the bat, very patient, and they relied on their scaling, which XL unfortunately didn't really have any answers for.
That's the reason Splyce are always seen as, playoff contenders. They're not going to give you the game. You have to get the game from them. You have to take it from them. Even if you have an early lead, they're not going to make mistakes and just feed you gold.
Yep.
And credit to XL, of course, for their early game, but Splyce coming out strong in the first round of the LEC.
XL showed some promise though.
Yeah.
Definitely a positive way to start the split. It's a brand new org, brand new team. You can definitely, going up against especially some of the players on this Splyce roster, kind of considered to be one of the, or not a favorite in this matchup. But Splyce showcasing that there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And XL showcasing that there's definitely a lot of potential that they can work with.
Oh, definitely. I think if you look at both these teams, I think you can say they still have room to grow. They still have potential. They still have space that they need to work into. But for now, a win is a win, and Splyce are the team to put that one on the board for the day.
Yep, I agree.
Sorry, yeah, I felt like I had more to say, and then I just kind of stopped. I was thinking about your diary once again, but yes. I wonder what it will read tonight. Got
Just
some
a clarification, I don't have a diary. I instead write notes and letters scattered amongst my room.
It's fun to search for them. Is it under his duvet? Is it under the pillow?
Notes across
Is it
the
under this
apartment.
old sock? The amount of times I picked up an old sock expecting this gorgeous note that I could read, and instead just get fumes.
To be fair, I have a lot of old socks that just don't fit me anymore, so I just throw them around, and I'm like, I'll throw it out later.
That's enough about socks for now. Let's check out some of the highlights from Splyce's win. And there are a few highlights to look at. You have to look back at the early game where XL were the team to take the advantage, but then in the mid-game, Splyce started coming out on top.
So this is one of the big fights that really started swinging it for Splyce. Unfortunately, XL grouped up, and that's not really the situation that you wanted to be in this mid-game. Splyce were able to land all of their area of effect. Really good stuff from Vizicachi and Xerxes, acting as that front line, setting up that crowd control, and then the damage from Humanoid and Kobe was more than enough to help clean through the fight. So really impressive stuff there from Splyce, and again demonstrating why they're such strong late game team.
And this is just their play style. Like, it's what we saw from them back in spring of last year. Have Kobe on the back line. You can see Kasing almost getting there, but not quite able to do it. And then XL just couldn't work their way through Chachi and Xerxes on that front line. It was just too many tanks for them to deal with.
Yep. This is the power of scaling, my friend, and Baron-empowered minions, of course. So good stuff there from Splyce. Looking forward to seeing what else they can do. Same for XL. Not entirely sure who they play tomorrow, but based on what they've shown today, I feel like that they're definitely an opponent that you have to respect. They come in with a game plan. They seem to be able to execute upon that initial game plan, but it's then maintaining that advantage and being able to snowball is the next step that they'll likely be looking to work on.
They play up against Rogue tomorrow, so that should be a very good game. We've yet to see Rogue play, of course, and we want to get your pick for key player of the game, so head on over to @LOLEsports on Twitter, where you can choose between Kobe, Xerxes, and Kasing. 3 good players there, I think.
Yes, and as a reminder, Kobe is at Kasing no longer on Splyce.
Oh yeah, they're not all on the same team
anymore. We now,
anymore.
of course, choose one member from the opponent team that you can vote for if you feel that they deserved player of the game. For me, I think Xerxes was really the standout. He had a lot of good ultimates. I think he worked well with Humanoid, who definitely deserves an admirable mention.
Yeah, I think Humanoid is my honorable mention for that game. Didn't die in his first game on the LEC stage, played really well, had a massive bounty, 1,000 gold bounty on his head by the end of it as well. So someone's going to have to snipe him the next time they play. But for more on Splyce's win, let's check in with Law and their top laner.
Thank you very much, Medic. Standing with Vizicachi here. How are you feeling after this first win?
Oh, I'm feeling really good. It was nice to be back on stage, even though we felt a bit more shaky compared to how we usually play. But I think that's always like the new start of the season. You need to get used to the stage again, and then the decisiveness will come.
You're saying that it was a bit shaky. What was different?
Like in the early game and mid game, we got a bit thrown off. Maybe because we didn't buy my item on support and the level 1 as well. We lost flash on ADC, so our game plan was a bit shaken. But I think after that, in the mid game and mid-late game, we stabilized a lot, and the shot calling was back as well.
I agree. Now, one more question. You'll be playing with one of your old teammates, Xerxes. Was it helpful during trainings to know that you could rely on some existing synergy?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, it was largely influencing my decision to come to Splyce originally, that I knew that I can play together with Cersei as well, who I value really high. And I think our synergy was instantly back on track after playing a few games together. And we also discussed what the other one thinks about the certain situations on how to gank top lane. And I think we have a very good understanding right now, and I know I can rely on him very much.
Yeah, and it clearly showed today. Now you have a newcomer in the LEC in your team, Humanoid, who had an exceptional game today. Can you tell me something about him? How is he? What can we expect from him?
He's a very talented, aggressive mid laner, and it's exactly who we were looking to get, and someone who can improve during the split as well. And I think he's doing really well in scrims, and he stepped up on stage as well, which shows that he actually has no fear. He's not afraid to dive the backline and come with the team, and he knows his rotations well as well, so he's quite knowledgeable too. And yeah, that's very good for our lineup.
And we'll be expecting to see more of him now. Thank you very much for joining
Thank
me
you very
on
much as
stage.
well.
We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, it's going to be Schalke 04 versus Vitality. Don't go anywhere.